It was barely sunrise when Camilla stepped out of the black luxury SUV that had stopped near a busy intersection. 5 years earlier, she had dreamed of owning a car like this. Back then, she counted every coin before buying groceries, worried about rent, and wondered if life would ever give her a chance. Now she was one of the country's youngest self-made millionaires. She owned successful companies, employed hundreds of people, and appeared on magazine covers as an example of determination and resilience. Yet despite everything she had accomplished, one part of her heart had remained frozen in time. Her assistant was speaking on the phone beside the car, but Camilla's attention drifted toward the crowded sidewalk. Vendors were arranging fresh fruit, flowers, and vegetables while commuters rushed past without stopping. Suddenly, a familiar voice rose above the morning noise. Sweet oranges, fresh mangoes, best prices in town. Camilla turned instinctively, her heart skipped a beat. Standing behind a simple wooden fruit cart was Daniel. The man she had loved with all her heart. The man she had not seen in 5 years. Time had changed him. His face looked older, and tiny lines surrounded his eyes, evidence of years filled with responsibility instead of rest. His hands were rough from hard work, and although his clothes were clean, they were clearly worn from daily use. Beside him stood a little girl of about 6 years old, smiling brightly as she handed apples to a customer. "Dad," she called happily, "this lady wants bananas." Daniel smiled warmly. "I'm coming, sweetheart." Camilla felt as though the ground had disappeared beneath her feet. Dad, he had become a father. The assistant finished his call and approached her. "Miss Camilla, the investors are waiting." She barely heard him. "You go ahead," she whispered. "I'll be there later." Without another word, she walked toward the fruit cart. Daniel looked up. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The city seemed to disappear around them. Finally, Daniel smiled gently. "Hello, Camilla." She swallowed hard. "You recognized me. I could never forget your face." Tears gathered in her eyes. "I thought you hated me." Daniel looked down before answering. "I tried." His honesty hurt even more than anger would have. 5 years earlier, they had been inseparable. Daniel worked as a mechanic, fixing old cars from morning until night. Camilla studied business administration while working evenings in a small cafe. They had little money but endless dreams. Every Sunday they would sit together in the park, sharing sandwiches and imagining the future. "We'll buy a little house one day," Daniel would say. "And fill it with books," Camilla answered. "And flowers. And laughter." Neither of them cared about expensive things. They only wanted a simple life together. Then everything changed. Camilla's father suffered a severe stroke that left him unable to work. Medical bills consumed every savings they had. Around the same time, Daniel's mother was diagnosed with kidney failure. The treatments were expensive, and his small mechanic's salary was never enough. One evening, Camilla received an email that would change her life forever. An international investment company had selected her business proposal from thousands of applicants. They offered her funding, mentorship, and the opportunity to build her company abroad. It was the chance she had prayed for. But it required her to leave immediately. She begged Daniel to come with her. He wanted to, more than anything, but he looked at his mother sleeping in her hospital bed and quietly shook his head. "I can't leave her," Camilla cried. "And I can't leave my father either." For weeks they searched for another solution. There wasn't one. Finally, standing at the airport, Daniel held her hands tightly. "Go. What about us?" she whispered. "If we're meant to be together, life will find a way." She kissed him through tears. "I'll come back. I'll wait." But life is unpredictable. The first months they spoke every day. Then work became overwhelming. Hospital emergencies interrupted calls. Messages arrived late. Sometimes not at all. One day Daniel's phone stopped working after he sold it to pay for medicine. Camilla interpreted the silence as rejection. Daniel believed she had forgotten him. Neither realized they were both waiting for a message that never came. Years passed. Camilla built an empire through relentless determination. Daniel sold his repair shop to pay medical debts. Then tragedy struck again. His younger sister and her husband died in a terrible traffic accident, leaving behind their 4-year-old daughter, Sophia. Without hesitation, Daniel adopted her. Everything he had left went toward raising the little girl. The dream of opening another mechanic shop disappeared. Instead, he borrowed money to buy a simple fruit cart. It wasn't glamorous, but it fed Sophia. Back in the present, Camilla looked toward the cheerful little girl. "She's beautiful." Daniel smiled. "Thank you. She's your daughter. My daughter in every way that matters." He explained what had happened. Camilla covered her mouth, fighting tears. "I'm so sorry." I heard you had married. Daniel laughed quietly. I heard the same about you. I never did. Neither did I. For the first time, both of them smiled sincerely. Throughout the conversation, Daniel continued serving customers with kindness. An elderly man apologized because he was short on money. Daniel slipped 2 extra oranges into his bag anyway. Pay me next time. A young mother couldn't afford enough fruit for her children. Daniel quietly added apples without charging her. Camilla watched every interaction. Success had changed her lifestyle. Hardship had only made Daniel kinder. The realization filled her with admiration. The next day she returned. She bought several kilograms of fruit. The following day she came again. Sometimes they talked for only 5 minutes. Sometimes an hour. Slowly, they began learning about the lives they had lived apart. Daniel discovered that despite her wealth, Camilla lived alone in a huge apartment that often felt painfully silent. She discovered Daniel spent every evening helping Sophia with homework before reading bedtime stories. One afternoon Sophia looked at Camilla curiously. Daddy smiles more when you're here. Daniel turned red. So do you, Camilla teased. The little girl giggled. Within weeks, Sophia began asking when Camilla would visit again. Camilla found herself bringing books, coloring pencils, and homemade desserts. Not expensive gifts, just thoughtful ones. She wasn't trying to impress anyone. She simply enjoyed being part of their little world. One rainy morning, Camilla arrived to find Daniel desperately trying to protect his fruit from a sudden storm. Water had soaked dozens of boxes. Customers disappeared. Half the day's income was ruined. Without hesitation, Camilla removed her expensive jacket, covered several crates, and helped him move everything under a nearby awning. Daniel looked at her in surprise. You don't have to do this. I know. Then why? Because once upon a time, you would have done exactly the same for me. He smiled. You're right. That evening, after the market closed, Camilla invited Daniel for coffee. I have something important to ask. He nodded. My company is opening a chain of fresh food markets. I need someone who truly understands farmers, customers, and honest work. Daniel immediately shook his head. I'm not qualified. She smiled softly. You've managed a business. Every single day. I only sell fruit. No. You build trust. You remember every customer's name. You help people even when they can't pay. Skills can be taught. Character can't. He remained silent. I don't want charity. This isn't charity. It's an opportunity. The same kind someone once gave me. Daniel spent several nights thinking. Finally he accepted. The beginning wasn't easy. He struggled with computers. Financial reports confused him. Business meetings intimidated him. Whenever he wanted to quit, Camilla reminded him of something he had once told her years earlier. Every expert was once a beginner. Little by little, Daniel improved. His experience with farmers transformed the company's entire supply system. He eliminated unnecessary middlemen, ensuring growers earned fair prices while customers paid less. Employees admired his humility. Despite becoming a respected executive, he never forgot where he came from. Every Saturday morning he visited the same street where he once sold fruit. He bought produce from old friends and shared breakfast with them. Success had changed his circumstances. Not his heart. Months turned into years. Sophia flourished under the love of both adults. She often joked that she finally had the family she had always dreamed about. One evening, while the three of them prepared dinner together, Sophia suddenly placed her hands on her hips. I have a question. Daniel laughed. What is it? She looked from one adult to the other. If you both love each other so much, why aren't you married yet? Silence filled the kitchen. Camilla burst into laughter. Daniel rubbed the back of his neck awkwardly. I suppose, he admitted, we've been taking things very slowly. Too slowly, Sophia declared. Several weeks later, Daniel invited Camilla to the same park where they had once shared sandwiches and impossible dreams. The benches had been replaced. The trees had grown taller. But everything still felt familiar. He took a deep breath. 5 years ago, I promised I'd wait. I never stopped. Camilla's eyes filled with tears. I never stopped loving you either. Daniel reached into his pocket. Instead of an expensive diamond ring, he held a simple silver band. I can't compete with millionaires. Camilla smiled through her tears. You don't have to. You've always given me something money could never buy. And what's that? A home. She slipped the ring onto her finger before he could even ask. Months later, family, neighbors, farmers, former street vendors, company employees, and old friends gathered for their wedding. It wasn't the most luxurious celebration in the city, but it was filled with genuine laughter, heartfelt hugs, and grateful tears. During his speech, Daniel looked around the room before taking Camilla's hand. People believe becoming rich is about money, he said. But I once owned almost nothing and still felt blessed because I had hope. He looked into Camilla's eyes. And today, I know the greatest fortune isn't measured in bank accounts. It's measured by the people who stand beside you when life changes everything. Camilla smiled as tears rolled down her cheeks. I became a millionaire, she said softly, but the greatest investment I ever made wasn't in a company. It was believing that true love, when it's real, always finds its way home. The room erupted in applause. Outside, life continued as it always had. Street vendors arranged fresh fruit beneath the morning sun. Children laughed as they walked to school. People hurried to work without realizing they were passing the very place where two hearts had been reunited. Sometimes life separates people not because love has ended, but because both must become the person they were meant to be before they can truly find each other again.